My father told me a story once, and I'll never forget it for a few reasons. I think it's the first story he told me as a child. It's also the story of how my grandfather died. But honestly, that isn't the reason you hear stories on TV. Or sometimes, you overhear something in a public place, people talk about ghosts and aliens, and you think yourself that isn't real, they're making it up, or they're mistaken, or they're crazy. Something like that. He just can't believe it until something happens. Something that brings it all together, connects the dots in a way that you didn't think of before. Maybe it happens to you, or maybe you hear the same story again, happening to different people. It doesn't take long for the world to become a bit bigger than you thought. As I said, this is a story my father told me, but I never believed it. Even though he swore up and down that it was true, it wasn't until I started clicking around the internet that I started to believe. I started to hear other stories just like the one my father told me. It didn't take me long to believe in therapy. That's not what my father called it. Of course, he's never used the internet in his life. He wouldn't know what the consensus has taken to naming it when he chose to call it something other than it, or that thing he called it Skinwalker after an old Navajo tale his grandfather told him. But I'll tell you the story the way he told it to me. We were out hunting one night, killing coyotes for $50 a skin. We lived on a dairy farm in Ohio, and sometimes we'd kill a calf. We'd do it every night because we needed the money. Sometimes while we were out, we'd come upon a deer and kill it. Our landlord didn't mind, and it could feed our family for a few nights and save us some money anyway. We're done making our rounds and heading home walking because we didn't have a car or a four-wheeler back then, and we cut through the woods, and that's when we came upon it. Blood everywhere, splattered on the trees and the grass and the creek everywhere. And at first, we figured it was a pack of coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes. They scavenge and then start hunting deer or cattle. The worst was when they bred with feral dogs, but this wasn't like that. When a pack of dogs or wolves or coyotes attack something, they do it right. They'll pick off one that's weak, sick, old, or just small. They'll hunt it, draw it into a corner someplace it can't get out of, and then they'll run it right to the biggest one, the alpha, and that deer will never see that alpha. They might hear it, but it won't see it. It'll just notice that its throat is gone, and then it will drop dead. It's quick, it's clean. That wasn't what happened here. Something had run up on a den of deer. Coyotes won't attack a den, and wolves neither, because they'd get too much of a fight. There were three bodies, just torn apart. You'd see a head here, a leg there, a torso over there. Predators don't do that. They don't leave behind scraps. Wood had done this. Hadn't done it for food. It had done it for fun. But we didn't know that we saw a bunch of carcasses, and we think it's something that we've got to take care of. I remember my dad telling me to go home. He thought it was a pack of feral dogs, but I wasn't leaving him, and I damn sure wasn't walking through 2 miles of woods alone with nothing but a .22 and a pocket knife. I was only 13 at the time, so a .22 rifle was about the only gun I could reliably use. Dad had the shotgun, and he wasn't going anywhere without. It took me a while to convince him, but finally we began tracking whatever did that. It wasn't hard either. We just followed the blood. Either that thing bled a deer before it got away, or it dragged one for a mile. I don't know. Know that I'd never seen my dad scared. Before that night, we started hearing noises. I've been in a lot of woods in my life. I've been all over the world, and I ain't never heard noises like I heard that night. I heard things screaming deep, and fox and rabbits and raccoons and birds just scared. Now keep in mind, this is maybe 12 or 1, except the fox and some birds. Nothing was supposed to be awake, but they weren't just awake. They were moving. I saw flocks of birds that night fly straight into trees, just trying to get out of there. We came upon a pack of coyotes, nearly shot a couple, thinking that it was what we were looking for, but then we saw that they were running towards us. They ran right past us, didn't even notice. And then some deer did the same, and then some rabbits, squirrels, foxes, even a couple of wild hogs. These things were supposed to be eating each other, and the only thing they cared about was getting out of there. We should have put it together that maybe whatever we were tracking, it wasn't something we were supposed to see, and it wasn't something we could kill. I don't know why we didn't just go home. I guess we were curious. Think that was my dad's nature, to go toward trouble, to fight, and knowing what I knew about what my father did during the war, my nature was to stay close to him. We finally get into an open valley. It was normally a soy field, but it wasn't in season, so it was just flat dirt. We saw the tracks, then a lot of the animals fleeing the forest had paved over the land, but where the deer blood was, nothing had taken a single step like they were leaving it. For us to find the tracks were shallow. Whatever it was couldn't have weighed more than 100 la, but that didn't mean much. A bobcat weighing around 40 labi nearly tore my damn throat out once. And all that means is that it's quick and it's hard to hit. We follow the tracks and it doesn't take long for us to find where it is. There's this old schoolhouse that sits on the top of the hill. Half of it had been ripped up by a tornado and nobody lived there. Not for a long time. We caught homeless people in there sometimes, or druggies looking for a safe place to shoot up. We figured maybe that was it. Maybe it was just some sick kid riding a high. But we didn't think that. For long, we get within 50 yards and we heard this noise, a screeching kind of sound. It was sort of made up of two different sounds. One, a high-pitched screech. Another was a low-pitched growl it was making, both at the same time. We get within 20 yards, and we hear the sound. I can remember thinking that it sounded like paper being torn apart, while someone was swinging water in a bucket back and forth. Dad looks at me, kneels down, and whispers, "I got to stay behind them, 'cause we're about to corner him." Any animal will fight when it's cornered, especially when it's a predator. But we can tell by the tracks that it's just don't. He tells me it's probably a single feral dog. Probably rabid. The plan is to sneak up on it while it's eating, shoot it, and then keep shooting until it doesn't move anymore, and then slit its throat. If it gets to Dad, it's my job to shoot it or stab it to get it off of him, so he walks up and I'm right behind him, just a tad to his side so I can see what it is. I wish to this day that I hadn't. It was leaning over a carcass, tearing off its flesh and throwing what it doesn't nibble at its side. There's blood all over the brick, glistening in the moonlight. It's pale white, human looking, but not quite human. It had arms and legs like a human, but it sat like a monkey, hunched over. Its hands weren't normal. It had long fingers with claws at the end, so we see that, and my dad hesitates. He wasn't about to fire on a person, so he clears his throat to try to get it to turn around. I swear to God, all the noise just ceased. I ain't never heard true silence before that, and not after it, but for 2 seconds, nothing made any noise, which made it all the louder when it turned around, made this shrill cry and jumped on. Daddy got a shot off. I think he missed it. If he hit the thing, it didn't mind, but it was on him, tearing parts of him off. I started shooting it with .22 point blank, but it barely bled the thing. I got off 5 rounds and then I started hitting it with the gun, but it wasn't budging. It didn't even register that I was there. It CLA at my dad, taking off bits of his flesh. It started on his torso, ripping off the skin, and then it moved up. It tore off his throat, his nose, his eyes. It scalped him. Then it started digging in and ripping off the bottom half of his jaw, the little bones in that tube in your neck, and then his ribs. I don't exactly remember what happened, but somehow my dad's knife ends up in the thing's shoulder and my dad ends up on my back. I'm running, and by God, I'm running faster than I never run before or after, and I know it's following me. I end up back in the woods opposite Theon's we've been in. I'm heading towards my landlord's house because it's a half a mile away. I can hear this thing screeching and moaning. I hear the tree branches crack and get thrown around it. Sounds like someone taking an axe to every single tree I pass. It's cracking so loud and often, but I'm not looking back. Finally, I trip into gravel. I look up and there's my landlord and a bunch of his buddies drinking around a campfire. I scream and cry and they come over. I'm telling them to call an ambulance, and he looks at me and I never forget what he said. "What's that on your back?" he asked me, and just as he said it, I saw one of those god-awful flannel shirts my dad wore. Everywhere it was what was left of my dad, most of his head, his torso, but nothing after the waist. Suddenly we hear it screeching and he grabs me. My dad gets thrown in the ground and I'm fighting him, crying because I think we can still save him somehow. But my dad had been gone before I even picked him up. He has to pick me up and throw me inside before I come with him. He and his buddies were all inside and they're locking doors and getting guns ready. The landlord looks at me asking what happened, but I just don't know what to tell him. He pieced enough of it all together to understand that there was something dangerous out there. All the lights in the house are on and someone calls the cops and they'll be there in 15 minutes. We look outside and see it walk in front of the fire they'd made. I don't know what it is. One of them says it looks like an ape, and suddenly something goes through the window. We shoot at it, but it ain't the thing. It's my landlord's dog, just the body though, not his head or legs, and we stab